Normally in these videos we talk about unmade shows and movies that fans are unaware of, but today we're talking about an unmade film that has reached mythical status and has developed a cult fan base in spite of the fact that no fan has ever seen it, which most definitely classify it as one of the many legends of fandom. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and I would like to extend my gratitude to all of you who requested the topic for this video on Twitter. Now, without further ado, let's begin at the beginning. The tumultuous tale of the Batgirl movie begins in early 2017. Joss Whedon had officially jumped ship from Marvel Studios to Warner Brothers, and the Avengers franchise, which he initially helmed for Marvel, had been officially handed to the Russo brothers after the incredible job that they did with Captain America Civil War. One of Whedon's many complaints about Marvel Studios, at the time, was that it was impossible to write compelling female characters because of the constant meddling from the heads of Marvel Entertainment, namely Ike Perlmutter. Whedon was even quoted as saying that the only way that he would return to Marvel was if he would be allowed to direct an all-female Avengers movie. Henceforth, one of the many incentives Warner Brothers used to get him to helm one of their movies was that he could direct a movie with a female hero as a titular character. His first choice was Wonder Woman, for whom he had already written a script for in the early 2000s. But The Amazing Amazon was off the table, as that film was already in pre-production and Warner Brothers was only auditioning female directors to helm the project. So he was offered the opportunity to direct a movie starring the second most popular female superhero in DC Comics, Batgirl. Now, for those of you who don't know, Batgirl was created in 1967 by Gardner Fox and Carmine Infantino at the request of William Dozier, the producer of the live-action Batman TV series starring Adam West and Burt Ward. Dozier was in the process of convincing the network into picking up a third season of Batman, and he felt that the way to do it was by convincing them that this season would attract a larger female demographic, by introducing a new female superhero, first in the comics and then in the show. So Fox and Infantino created Batgirl, the precocious daughter of Commissioner Gordon, who decides to take up crime fighting after saving Bruce Wayne from the villainous Killer Moth while she was on her way to a costume party dressed as Batman. The character was an instant hit, which was amplified even further the very next year when she was introduced into the TV series as portrayed by Yvonne Craig. Batgirl is a DC staple, who has appeared in multiple incarnations and across almost every medium of entertainment. So, suffice it to say, Whedon jumped at the opportunity to write and direct a Batgirl movie, and immediately got to work on a script. But then, Zack Snyder dropped out of directing Justice League, due to very serious and personal reasons that will not be discussed in this video. So the producers offered Whedon the opportunity to take over Snyder's directing duties for Justice League, and he agreed. Which is really puzzling, because one of the reasons Whedon left Marvel was because he claimed that directing those big budget crossover superhero movies was killing him. And the less we say about his Justice League movie, the better. Essentially, Whedon agreed to finish directing the Justice League movie with the condition that he would still be allowed to direct the Batgirl movie. But shortly after Justice League was released, he dropped out of the Batgirl movie, claiming that he couldn't crack the story. And I quote, "The story kind of just crumbled in my hands. There were elements that I just had mastered that, after a long time, felt like I wasn't going to. I told people that I didn't even have an idea, which isn't an exact truth. I had an idea, but it didn't fit in the space that was left for it. It was a little heartbreaking." I'm sorry, but this is a man who has written over 100 episodes of Buffy, Angel, and Firefly, shows that contain lots of badass, compelling female characters. So after all the behind-the-scenes Justice League controversy that came to light, him using "I couldn't crack the story" as the excuse to part ways with Warner Brothers just seems a bit suspect. Word on the Batgirl movie went quiet for some time outside of the occasional internet rumor, until 2021, when it was officially announced that the project would be moving forward, with directing duo Abil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah at the helm, and the project would now be an exclusive release for their streaming service HBO Max. Which is really puzzling because, as I established already, Batgirl is one of the most popular female superheroes of all time, And during this time period, female superhero movies were on an upswing. The movie would star Hispanic actor Leslie Grace as Batgirl, trans actor Ivory Aquino as her trusty sidekick Aaliyah Yao, Brendan Fraser as Firefly, J.K. Simmons reprising his role as Commissioner Gordon, and the return of Michael Keaton as Batman. I'm gonna repeat that again just in case you didn't catch it the first time. Michael mother-loving Keaton was coming back as Batman from the Tim Burton franchise in this movie. So again, I ask, why the hell was this being released on streaming? But then on August 2022, in the wake of the motherfucking Warner Brothers Discovery merger, it was announced that while the film had entered post-production, which means that it's almost finished, the studio no longer planned to release it due to the company's cost-cutting measures and to refocus on theatrical releases. We only got one explanation from the newly appointed Warner's Discovery CEO David Soloff, and I quote, "We're not going to put a movie out unless we believe in it, and that's it." Which is a very ignorant thing to say, as nobody can truly predict whether or not a movie will connect with an audience and turn a profit, especially when the movie's still in post-production. Also, this is so demeaning to the cast and crew of Batgirl, who had been busting their asses on this movie for over a year at this point. There's also claims that the movie was scrapped due to poor test screenings. Oh god, there are so many problems with this claim. I'll do my best to condense them down. Number 1, this movie was meant to be released on streaming, so why in Galactus's gargantuan gonads were they doing test screenings? Number 2, why the fudge farts was it being screened in movie theaters? It wasn't made to be watched that way. Number 3, the movie was in post-production at the time, meaning that it wasn't finished. So how the heck were they expecting to get positive test screenings with an unfinished movie? And number 4, the movie was directed by Arby and Falah, who did an amazing job with Ms. Marvel. So they kick ass for Marvel, but then they drop the ball for Warner Brothers? It just seems highly unlikely. Look, whether this movie was good, bad, or forgettable, the fact of the matter is that Warner Brothers canceled a movie that was directed by 2 South Asian directors, had a trans woman playing a key role, and a Hispanic woman playing the titular character. So there's no excuse that Warner Brothers could provide that would make them look good. Plus, anyone with common sense knows that this was one of the many Warner Brothers productions that was scrapped so it could be used as a tax write-off after the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. To make matters worse, Warner Brothers didn't tell the cast and crew of Batgirl that the movie had been canceled. Most of them found out through social media after a news outlet broke the story. Hell, the directors found out while they were in Morocco celebrating Arby's wedding. Now that is some ice cold shit. The directors returned to the Warner Brothers lot with the intention of salvaging some of the footage, only to discover that it had been removed from the servers. And I quote, "I went on the server, everything was gone. We were like, shit. All the scenes with Batman in them." Now, initial reports about this incident wrongfully stated that the footage had been deleted. It was not. It was removed from the servers that the directors had access to. The footage still exists. In fact, Warner Brothers did hold what was referred to as a funeral screening of the film for the cast and crew. Now this is one of those moments in life when I wish that the characters from the movie fanboys were real, because they would break into the Warner's lot, steal a copy of the movie, and leak it onto the internet. Rebel Forces style, bitches! The one positive thing that has come from this whole debacle is the outpour of love from fans towards this unreleased movie. Fan art, behind the scenes footage, and even a fan-made trailer has been shared all across the internet. Plus, cast members like Leslie Grace, Brendan Fraser, and Michael Keaton have been kind enough to share both behind-the-scenes pictures as well as their thoughts on the cancellation of the movie. And it doesn't stop there. Celebrities that had absolutely nothing to do with the movie, like Kevin Smith, Patton Oswalt, and the president of Marvel Studios himself, Kevin Feige, have all voiced their disappointment at the cancellation of the Batgirl movie. But the question remains, what was the Batgirl movie going to be about? Now, Warner's has been pretty hush-hush about the movie's content, and everyone involved with the movie has signed an NDA and legally can't talk about it. but that doesn't mean that a few details haven't leaked anyway. The Batgirl movie would have been based on the New 52 version of Batgirl, who is younger and more modernized. This particular incarnation of the character actually recovered from her paralysis after being attacked by the Joker, thanks to 3 years of physical therapy, and later develops a romantic relationship with Luke Fox, who many believe was going to be played in the movie by Jacob Scipio. Some have theorized that this movie was going to be either an origin movie or have flashbacks to Batgirl's origin. Why? Because her first villain, Killer Moth, was supposed to be in it. We know this because stuntman Jules Wallace was kind enough to post pictures of himself in his Killer Moth costume and makeup on his Instagram account. We also know that Batgirl was going to have run-ins with the Lucky Hand Triad, which is the most powerful crime syndicate in Gotham's Chinatown. And Derek Sayo was supposed to play Eken Zhu, the leader of the organization. As I stated before, Batgirl's main antagonist in the movie was supposed to be Firefly, played by Brendan Fraser. In the comics, Firefly is Garfield Lynns, a professional arsonist who will sell his destructive skills to the highest bidder. But Brendan Fraser revealed that in this movie, his character's real name was Ted Carson, and would have a completely original origin story, as a disgruntled veteran who becomes a sociopathic pyromaniac. Personally, I think this would have been the perfect villain for this movie, as Batgirl's story arc would have been that of somebody trying to rebuild her life and take her place as one of Gotham's protectors, all the while Firefly is literally trying to burn down the city that she's trying to protect with fire. One of the most appealing aspects for me was that this movie would have taken place in its own continuity. Even though J.K. Simmons was in it as Commissioner Gordon reprising his role from the other DCEU films, his character is younger and has red hair. Also, the use of Michael Keaton as Batman as opposed to Ben Affleck firmly establishes this movie in its own universe. Now, whether or not this movie had any connections to the Tim Burton films, we will never know. And now for my unpopular controversial opinion. I think that this movie being cancelled was actually a good thing. Now, before you reach for your torches and your pitchforks, give me a moment to explain. If the Batgirl movie would have been released as initially planned, it would have been a trending topic for about a week, and then it would have been forgotten about. But it being cancelled in such an underhanded and disingenuous manner gave the movie a mythical status that rallied fandom together. And in this modern climate of alleged fans fighting each other over meaningless opinions, that kind of unity is rare. And I think that at this point, we have overhyped this film so much that we have created such an idealized version of it in our minds that the real movie could never live up to it. So maybe it is better that we never see it, and we just continue to allow the idea of this movie to inspire us, and more importantly, unite us. But don't get me wrong, if somebody right now offered me the opportunity to watch this movie, I would watch it in a heartbeat. And that concludes today's video. Can you think of any more unmade fanboy films or shows that you would like me to talk about? Let me know at erod@inbox.com. And who knows, it might just end up being the next topic of the next Legends of Fandom. Until next time, I'm Erod, and I'm the Blockbuster Buster.
Batgirl, Batgirl, Batgirl.